whereas anybody 4.8 or lower only tip 22% of the time. So passenger rating. I took 151 trips in 1 week to find who are the best tippers and what are the things that you and I can do to maximize our tips. Hi, my name is Levi, and this is The Daily Drive. The Daily Drive is brought to you by MileIQ. So last year, for a whole week, I took 151 rides. I captured all of the data that I possibly could, from like the passenger rating to the trip length to the type of trip to et cetera, everything I could. And I wanted to find out if there's anything that we can do in advance of accepting a trip. What are the things that we should look for to, find out what's the best way to maximize our tips? Now, I'm not talking about things like keeping your car clean or driving professional. I think all of us do a lot of that. And I'm just talking about the things that we can do to determine when we accept a trip, if that trip has the propensity, the ability to maximize our tips, if that makes any sense. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about my favorite ride of the week, which is going to contradict everything I just talked about. Then I'm going to go through all of the data and some of my best and worst tippers of that week. And then I'll answer your questions at the end of the podcast. Now, my ride of the day of the week, it wasn't really the ride of the week. The ride of the week is a term I used a lot when I was part of Drivers Coast to Coast. So shout out to Matt, Lynn, and Chuck. If you're ever on X, Drivers Coast to Coast is the show that they talk about a lot of things. It's every Monday night at 7 p.m. Check it out. It's really good. But I wanted to start talking just more about my rides and stories. And so it's a new segment here for the show. And this particular ride was epic, just epic. And when I say epic, nothing crazy happened or anything like that. I went to a hotel. I picked up a housekeeper. She was friendly. She was right there when I arrived. And just easy ride. And she tipped me $8 in cash and then $11 on the app. And it just means so much to me. It really does. I would have been happy with just a 5-star rating. I don't think I even earned a tip. But there's something about people that work for tips, that work blue collar service jobs, that understand the challenges that drivers have. And and I understand her challenges as a housekeeper. And we just had we briefly talked in the beginning of the ride. Then the ride got quiet and I just took her home. And the irony is I picked up another person at that spot earlier. It was a lawyer going to be working at one of the top law firms in America, according to him, going to just be wealthy beyond, all of our imaginations. Just going to be a super wealthy person. This guy was not ready, made me wait, and just basically told me which route to take and was high demand and no tip. Whereas this housekeeper, she didn't have any requirements. She just appreciated the ride and appreciated the fact that I was able to take her. And I think what was really interesting about this, and it's going to contradict everything I'm going to say here coming up, is that the only thing that kind of clued me in that I potentially might earn a tip is I was picking up somebody at a hotel. And so we're going to talk about that. Let's jump into all of the data now on these trips. So like I said, I took 151 rides. I just captured all of the data. I took a screenshot of every ride up front. And then I even captured like their names. And so come to find out, people with the letter name P are really good tippers, but people with the letter starting with the letter C, like Chad's, not good tippers. But that's not really important. Let me give you some quick highlights of that week here. So my best tip was Haley. Haley was a mom with 3 kids stranded on the highway. And I went and picked her up. She gave me $40 in cash and then $1 tip in the app. And I just, Uber driver parked on the side of the highway, coming to the rescue. It was really cool. And so Haley, I really appreciate it. Destiny, she was my best percentage tipper. It was just her and I think her husband. They were staying at an Airbnb. I took them to the bus stop. They tipped me $5 on a fare that they paid $7.71 for. How about that? So that was my best percentage fare. Mira, she was my biggest tip per mile. She tipped me $7 to go zero point 0.8 miles. And the reason why is when I showed up, she had a cat and she didn't pay for Uber Pet. I didn't really lecture or anything. I just told her about that as an option. She was a really generous tipper and I appreciated it. Smiran, Smran, was my most profitable trip. And by the way, of that whole week, that was my most profitable trip. I earned $338 an hour and I didn't get a tip, but I earned $12 to go about a half a mile. So that was really kind of cool. Rhea was my least profitable trip. I earned $6.28 or $19.71 as profit to go 4.6 miles in 14 minutes. So Rhea didn't tip me. That was my least profitable trip out of the 151. Emma tipped me 1 cent. It was Emma and her boyfriend, and they were going out to go party. And I feel like they were going to tip me $1 because they seem really nice. And I only got a 1 cent tip. And I blame Uber for this. I blame Uber. There's no reason why people should be able to type in pennies. It's dollar increments. Uber, fix this. Stacy was the tip that I appreciated the most. She tipped me twice. She was just a worker at a dining facility at the university, and I picked her up twice to take her home, and she tipped me $2 twice. And I super appreciated that just because I know how much it costs for her to take an Uber home. And the fact that she tipped me, I picked up 2 days in a row is what it was. So it was pretty cool. Uh, let's see here. I got a 27% tip. Oh, that's right. These are people. Let me take a step back here. These are tips that I think I really, really earned. So one person tipped me 27% because I had to wait. She was running late for the bus. It was a reservation and I could have canceled, but I decided to wait and I'm glad I did. And she tipped me $11.51 to wait for an extra 5 minutes. That was really awesome. Elaine tipped me 25% of the fare for $8.88 for allowing her friends to sit in my third row. They didn't order an Uber XL, but my Tesla actually has a third row. And so I said, you can squeeze 2 of your friends back there. And she tipped me $8 for that. So that's pretty awesome. Sarah, I refunded her $5 tip. She was struggling for money and she had to take an Uber to work. And I can't remember exactly where she worked, but I remember she just needed all the help she can get. And she said she was going to tip me. She did. And I refunded her $5 tip. Mitt was my worst tipper. Mitt was my worst. It was Mitt. He's like a financial advisor, another Wall Street kind of guy. I picked him up at the airport and he was taking a ride to the hotel. But he said, hey, can you stop off at this one place? It was like midnight. It was him and his son. I said, sure, I'll stop off at that place. They took 10 minutes in that place, even though they didn't add a stop. They said they were going to tip me in the app and they never did. The guy just forgot. And I think that's what happens a lot of the times. Busy people promise a tip and then they just don't do it. And that's really frustrating. So Mitt, that's on you, buddy. And then this guy named Bardia broke all of my rules about who I think is going to tip me. We're going from nowhere to nowhere. It's in the middle of the day. It was a medium-sized trip, like a 10-minute trip. And his passenger rating was 4.68. And he still tipped me. So that broke all these rules I'm about to explain to you. So what are the things that I look for now that you kind of got all that? What are the things that I look for that I think are things that you can look for to potentially maximize the trips that are going to tip you? So let me give you the data here. Distance. The longer the trip, the more likely you are to get a tip. So I took 6 trips that were well over 30 minutes that week. 6 of them tipped 100% of the time. So if it was longer than 30 minutes, I got a tip every single time. Whereas the short trips, like the less than 5-minute trips, they only tipped 24% of the time. So distance is a thing that you can look at to say, will I get a tip? And the longer the trip, the more likely you are to get a tip. Airport. I did 8 airport trips, either taking people to the airport or picking them up from the airport, and 6 of them tipped. So 75% tipped. Whereas not going to the airport, not having the airport involved at all, was 34%. Real quick side note, I didn't track this, but I believe this to be the case. Hotels also work the same as airports. Those people that are staying at hotels or going to and from hotels or whatever it is tend to tip, which is kind of like my point with my ride of the day. I picked her up at the hotel thinking she was going to tip, not knowing she was the housekeeper, but amazing. Just love that. Just so appreciative of it. Thank you so much again. Ride type. Now, this is a pretty obvious one, maybe, but just to be kind of pointed out, if people pay for premium service, whether it be Uber Black, Comfort, Reservation, Priority, anything along those lines, they tend to tip more than people who pay for the cheapest ride, like they order Uber X Wait and Save, or they want to do the shared option or whatever it may be. So that week, I had 7 reservations, 5 of them tipped for 71% of the time, 6 Comfort rides, half of them tipped, and 2 Priority, half of them tipped. So my passenger rating is probably the thing that I think about the most. That's the easiest thing to identify. I had 51 5-star trips and 57 or 29 of them tipped 57% of the time. So that's awesome. Whereas anybody 4.8 or lower only tipped 22% of the time. So passenger rating, now of course, low rated passengers tip all the time. However, we're talking about odds, increasing our odds, and a 5-star passenger means that primarily they're either new to the app or they're probably just really nice people, and really nice people tip. Whereas like anybody at 4.7 something, your fellow drivers are trying to tell you something. That person is either asking for free favors, they're a jerk, whatever it might be. And those type of people don't tip. So passenger rating is by far one of the most important things to me when I decide if I'm going to take a trip. Now, here's an interesting one. Now, we don't know this up front, but if the passenger has to pay more, for whatever reason, to go a mile than somebody who had to pay less, the person that pays more for a regular ride, whatever it might be, tends to tip less. So, for example, I had surge rides. 38% of the rides that had a surge 38% of the rides that didn't have a surge tipped me, whereas only 31% of the rides that had a surge actually tipped, if that makes any sense. So 115 of my rides didn't have a surge. So that means a number of them did. Of those that did have a surge, they tipped less than the ones that didn't have a surge. So basically, if Uber's charging more, Uber's kind of eating into our tips. And I can validate that by looking at the data after the ride, the passengers that I've split my rides in half that week. And the ones that paid the most tipped less than the ones that paid the least, if that makes sense. So there you go. I just ultimately, I think there are 2 types of people in this world. And it's kind of hard to find them. But there are people that tip and people that don't tip. And the people that tip are going to tip you almost regardless of the level of effort that you put into it. Because that's just who they are and what they do. Whereas people that don't tip will never tip you, no matter what level of effort you can provide. And I think what you and I can do is try to identify them when we're picking rides. So I think my perfect ride to earn the most amount of money to include a tip would be an early morning reservation to the airport, a 5-star passenger paying for a comfort ride. They live way out in the country and they have to drive a long way to get to the airport. I think those people are going to tip me 100% of the time. In fact, I'm shocked. I'm shocked when they don't tip. And it's happened, but it rarely happens. Whereas I know if it's a surging ride, it's a half a mile, I'm going to earn a lot of money on the fare, but it's a 4.6 rated person, middle of the day, they're just not going to tip me. And I'm okay with that. But now I can start to guess, estimate. And of course, we can all come up with stories of low-rated passengers that tip, and we can come up with high-rated passengers that don't tip. We're just talking about the odds. So I hope my data was helpful to you. I really do. Now, let's jump into your questions and comments and stuff like that. So Damon said, depreciation is not a factor in a driving business. Damon, What are you talking about? Of course, depreciation is. Now, I would say if I drove Uber just to earn $100 a week, yeah, I don't think tipping or depreciation is a big issue at all. Correct. But if you're driving, trying to make $500 to $1,000 a week, if not more, you're putting in, let's say 30, 40 hours a week as a full-time driver almost, excuse me, then yeah, you should be definitely calculating your depreciation. Your car is worth less today than it was before because you're driving so many hours and miles on your car. So, Damon, I love you, man, but I disagree with you on this one. Andrew said I should do a video on taxes. And I have. So I'll put a link somewhere up here that you can watch that video. But yeah, taxes. Let me simplify taxes as clearly as easy as possible. Number one, track your miles. Mile IQ is a great thing for that. So just track your miles when you're out there driving. And that's going to be your main deduction. Then from there, track other expenses that you think are applying to this business. Use an app like, I don't know, TurboTax or something like that. And that's how I file my taxes. I don't think taxes are that complicated. And, but mileage, track your miles. I think it's 70 cents per mile, the federal deduction. So it's really important. Duran, I think that's his name, said he agrees with all the problems I said about the Tesla. So I made a Tesla. It's a little bit of a clickbaity kind of headline. Things I hate about my Tesla. And I do hate these things about my Tesla. But the things I mentioned were things like the rattling and the bad suspension. The truth is, I hit so many potholes. When you drive in Syracuse, Binghamton, or Ithaca, when you're driving in these old Rust Belt cities, our roads are horrible. And I think after 119,000 miles on my Tesla, I've rattled everything loose. It's really bad. So, yeah, there are problems with the Tesla. However, I have driven the new Tesla Model Y, and I think Tesla has solved some of these things. And as you can see, I've been making some videos about some aftermarket products of companies that have been sending me things to help me maybe say nice things about their company, but products that I think help. So watch some of those videos. I love my Tesla. Don't get me wrong. I probably never buy another car. I've looked at like Cadillac Escalades. I thought, man, it'd be so fun to do like Uber Black in one of those electric Cadillac Escalades with like, you know, the executive package seating and stuff like that. But I don't know if I could ever do without full self-drive. I don't think I could ever. I just love the Tesla software and the Tesla driving experience. So there you go. Hey, if you're a driver, an Uber driver, Lyft, DoorDash, whatever you're doing, I know it's hard. I really do. I understand it's hard, and sometimes it's not fair, the way the apps treat us, the way the passengers treat us. And I understand. That's why I drive as much as I can. I want to stay connected to our community, and I got to do it because I need the money. But I want you to know that I am cheering for you. I want you to be safe, healthy, happy. I want you to earn as much money as possible. I want you to enjoy the ride. My name is Levi Spires. This is the Daily Drive. Thank you so much. Be well. Bye.